What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the July 28th, 2011 edition of Asks the King. And I would like to say happy one-year anniversary to Asks the King. My first DSP's Inbox video actually happened in July of last year, so technically this is kind of like the one-year anniversary of me answering fan mail, fan questions, and such. So, hey, I love doing it, and I don't have any plans to stop, but I think that what I'm going to do, just as I spoke about in my last episode last month, is I'm probably going to do these once a month. It really seems like, again, when I have a chance to save up these questions, I get a couple things happen. Number one, a lot of good questions get asked rather than kind of rushing it every 2 weeks, and then maybe I have a couple good questions and then I have to use like filler questions. I get better questions if I let it stretch out a month. And then also, what I'm finding now is I'm seeing common themes in a lot of the questions, meaning a lot of people ask the same kind of question. And so now I know the topics that you want to know about, and I can better address those and answer the ones that I know that you think are the most important. So you're going to see a lot of the questions today that I talk about aren't really asked by one specific person, but they're a common theme that I want to address for everyone. So I'm going to be doing these once a month from now on, and there is already a new thread up on the king-ep.15 for the next episode, which will be at the end of August, so go check that out and submit your questions there if you'd like to have a chance to get your questions answered. One thing I would like to answer before I start is a lot of people have been saying, Phil, how do you go about answering these questions, okay? And the answer is, I do actually read every single question. I'm not kidding you. There were over 300 questions in the thread for this month's episode. I read every single question, weighed and balanced what I felt were, the more important topics or the things that I could answer better, and those are the ones that I'm going to answer. So, without further ado, here goes. First question, this is, Dear Phil, people are a lot more forgiving of violence these days. Yet whenever someone sees a nipple or an ass, they seem to flip out, at least on YouTube. If we allow blood and gore, why is the showing of breasts so morally wrong? Do you think that movies, games, and YouTube should allow nudity? And that question is from Canadian Bacon. Now this is an interesting question because in the United States, that statement is very correct. Nudity seems to be like, oh God forbid that someone show a nipple or a dick somewhere. I mean, you're gonna lose your head if that happens, okay? But on the flip side, violence seems to be allowed anywhere. Any TV drama show that you watch, like CSI, or even some of these ones that are cop dramas, people are getting shot, blown up, there's blood, gore, they're ripping bodies open. You're like, Jesus Christ, It's very graphic when it comes to violence here, but it seems like nudity is just like so different. And it's the same thing with YouTube. YouTube, for the most part, it seems like violence is allowed 99% of the time. I mean, look at some of the playthroughs I've done, graphic shit going on in video games, but nudity is very looked down upon. So I can make a video game where people's heads are exploding every 5 seconds. I could do a playthrough of it, but I can't do a 5-minute clip of Duke Nukem Forever where there's titties hanging out. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't seem to make logical sense. In other parts of the world, it's the complete opposite. Take Europe or Australia. In those places, nudity actually isn't that big of a deal, but violence is. For example, in Australia, they've banned Mortal Kombat 9 and they've banned other video games because they say, oh, they're too graphically, violent. So it seems really like a cultural thing. It depends on where you are in the world and what the culture is in that country, and I think it's really weird. I mean, the bottom line is, and I think there was another question here that was similar to this one. Here it is. Here's the other question. I'm going to tie this into the question. This is a question. It says, Dear DSP, I've noticed that you censor nudity in your videos. However, I've seen videos which are flagged for mature audiences and they have some nudity in them and they haven't been taken down by YouTube. My question is, why don't you flag your videos instead of having to edit them? And that's from Seasick. The answer to that question quickly, but I'll show you how it ties in, is that it's not foolproof for me to do that. Sure, first of all, it's not how YouTube works. I can't flag my own videos, okay? It's up to the users, the YouTube viewers, to flag videos. And when they flag the video, someone apparently reviews the video and says either they label it for mature audiences or they outright ban the video. And I've had videos that were flagged for nudity and banned from YouTube. So there's no way to just flag the video for mature audiences per se. Now, when it comes down to all this censorship, violence, nudity, the bottom line is this. Who are we really protecting from these things? The answer is obviously children, okay? And so the answer, so not the answer, but the real topic here is, why are we censoring these things? I mean, why isn't there free reign of information on the internet? Why can't you see violence and nudity or whatever wherever you want to see it? Why are games like Mortal Kombat 9 banned in Australia? That's ridiculous. And the real issue at hand here is, why aren't parents doing their job of keeping this content out of the hands of their children? If they really could do that and were good at it, then we wouldn't need all this fucking censorship. There wouldn't be need for any censorship, because, okay, I'm a parent. I'm responsible for my kid. I'm a responsible adult. I'm going to make sure I know what they're doing, what they're watching, what they're playing. And so, no, I'm not going to give my child free reign to watch whatever the hell they want on YouTube. I'm going to make sure that when they're on there, they're watching certain things, and there's certain things that I don't like them to watch. And listen, I'm not trying to be hypocritical here. I understand that a lot of my fan base are teenagers. And yeah, a lot of my stuff's considered adult content because of the language that I use. But it's up to the parent, the individual parent, to judge whether or not you feel your child is mature enough to see that content and to police your own child. It's not the work of the government. It's not the job of everyone else on the internet. It's not YouTube's job. It's no one else's job but the parent. So this really shouldn't be an issue. You shouldn't see things getting banned for nudity and banned for violence, because everything, we know what exists out there. Everything is going to exist. There's going to be all this crazy shit, and if you're a parent, it's your job to do it. And if you feel it's not your job and you're a parent, then you shouldn't be a parent, because you're not mature enough to be a parent, okay? Because that's what being a parent is all about, understanding that there are certain things that your child should know and shouldn't know, should see and shouldn't see, and making sure that they grow up properly in a safe environment at home. And if you're just letting them go on the internet and watching execution videos from fucking Afghanistan and hardcore fucking porn when they're 13, you failed as a parent, and it's your fault if that person ever grows up to have things wrong with them. So that's the bottom line. If parents would just take responsibility for their children and actually raise them properly, you wouldn't have this kind of stupid, oh, it's morally wrong to see nipples on YouTube, and oh, you can't sell MK9 in Australia. It's a preposterous topic, and it just shouldn't happen. It's the government stepping in where they feel that they need to basically impede in the life of an adult who should be raising their kid. And it's not right, and it's actually, in my opinion, an overstepping of a government's power. But that's just my opinion. And that was a long answer for the first question. Just so everyone knows, I've been getting over the past year some ridiculous questions about if I'm related to Susan Boyle, who is that the woman who went on I think it was Britain's Got Talent, and she sang, and she didn't look like a singer. She's an older woman, sang, and all of a sudden she was an amazing singer. She became an instant celebrity. Apparently some YouTube channel of hers, or of a fan of hers, like a fan page, made a comment on my channel like a year ago saying that, oh, Phil, my nephew, I love your stuff and keep it up and good luck. No, I'm not related to Susan Boyle. That was obviously not her. And people who think that that was her, you've all been fooled. So no, I'm not related to Susan Boyle. Let's see. Oh, okay. First of all, a lot of questions on what is the status of Bill S.978. And then I actually had another question about will it affect people internationally? And I've already answered that question, but I'm going to answer it again because I think a lot of people missed the answer. First of all, the status of Bill S.978, okay? It's still in committee, in Senate. It has not moved since I originally made the alert video a month ago, okay? That's because our government, number one, is very slow moving, and number two, is so busy right now trying to figure out what they're going to do with this budget deficit and the fact that we can't pay our bills, that's the only thing on their plate right now, and that needs to be settled before they can consider anything else, okay? So the bill is in committee. What will happen is, once Congress, or once the Senate, I'm sorry, I said Congress, I meant to say the Senate, the House of Representatives, once they finally get all this stuff with the budget settled, and if they settle it within a week, they're going to go on recess anyway for the summer. So it's going to be a month or two, okay, before they really start considering this kind of stuff again. It's going to move out of this little private committee into the public Senate. The public, the entire Senate will vote on it. And if it passes in the Senate, then it will go to the Congress. The Congress will vote on it. Then, if it passes in the Congress, it will go to the President for veto, if he wants to veto it or not. And then if he doesn't veto it, then it'll go into law. So you're talking at least a couple months before any action happens. Chances are it won't be on the docket for actually, voting for a while. I really don't think that this will really get passed until, maybe later in the year, if not the end of the year. But what I'm really hoping is that by then so much controversy gets stirred up that it just gets shot down, or it gets amended so much that it just becomes so different from what it was meant to be that it doesn't affect video game videos on the internet. So that's the status of the bill right now. Now, some people are asking me, Phil, but I live in Britain, but I live in the Ukraine, but I live in Bangladesh. Will it affect me at all, or my videos? The answer is, if you do anything on YouTube, the answer is yes. YouTube is a US-based company. Regardless of if they have servers in the UK and servers in Canada, and they have other locations for their business, regardless of where you're located, and if you're uploading videos, but I live in the UK or whatever, it doesn't matter. They're a US-based business. They will be affected by a US-based law. So what this will mean is that if this law passes in its current form, YouTube will be legally liable for having video game footage on their website up to the point where they're viewed as criminals, multiple felonies for having that on there. And so what they'll probably do is take down all the footage. And that's just a sad fact. So you're not safe if you're international. That's why I was really up in arms about this bill. That's why I made the video about it. I'm glad that so many people spread the word about it. It became viral, and now the entire internet knows about it, and hopefully this bill will get shut down. So that's that. Let's see. Next question. Oh, okay. Hey, DSP, now that you've played Back to the Future and the Ghostbusters, the game, what other classic movie series would you like to play that continue the originals? I think what he meant to say is, what other classic movie series would you like to see made into a video game and then play that game to see the original story continued? That's from Decoy111. I thought about this a little bit, and for me, I think two other real classic series, from the 80s at least, stand out, and one of them is Indiana Jones. And what I think they should really do is erase the whole fucking premise of that last movie that they made, The Crystal Skull, because that movie was complete fucking ass. It was just a George Lucas cash-in trying to make more money. It was horrible, and it ruined the franchise. Really, if you view the original 3 Indiana Jones movies as a trilogy, it's a classic trilogy, and it's amazing. The body of work there is outstanding. Every single movie is good. That 4th movie is fucking balls compared to those 3. So it really is a shame that George Lucas is such a fucking sellout that he did that. But, I digress. The question is about, what do you think would happen? I think if you made a line of Indiana Jones games, maybe his adventures between the movie trilogy, maybe his adventures directly after that 3rd movie of The Last Crusade, I think those could be huge sellers. Make them play like Tomb Raider and that kind, or Uncharted, that kind of game. They could be good, huge. I really do. I think that the potential is there. And another series that I think really would do well is Star Wars. And I'm not saying The Force Unleashed, that's a fucking prequel that no one cares about, because let's face it, this is what's been plaguing movies. These fucking prequels. Why are you making a prequel? I already know what happened in the future. I have no moral or any kind of investment in this movie because I already know what's going to happen. The idea of watching a movie or reading a good story or playing a good game is you don't know what's going to happen, and so there could be twists and turns and things. I mean, I'll be honest, that whole prequel trilogy of Star Wars movies, sure, I watched them all, but I wasn't at the edge of my seat wondering, oh, what's going to happen, because I knew what was going to happen in the 4th, 5th, and 6th installments. So it made no fucking sense for those movies even to be made, in my opinion. So for Star Wars, I think what they should do is actually go after the last Star Wars movie, which is Return of the Jedi, and show how these characters now evolve after the Empire is crushed. What happens with Leia and Han? Do they have children? What happens with Luke? Does he become a Jedi Master? Does he retire from being a Jedi? Does he go off to seek other adventures in the galaxy because he has these powers and he feels like he has to use them for good? What happens to these characters? All these things could potentially become amazing video games. So, that is what I think. Those are two real classic series that I think could really be made into a really good video game line. Okay, keep going here. I got some time still. The next question says, "Hey Phil, have you ever had your heart broken? My recent girlfriend just broke up with me and it's getting very difficult to handle. Do you have any advice for me? It would mean the world to me if you could help. Thanks a bunch," and that's from Laughingtree21. When the hell did I become the love guru? I mean, what is happening here? You really think that I'm like I'm a stud and I can answer these kind of questions? I mean, alright, honest answer, yeah, of course I've had my heart broken. Most people have, especially once you get to be my age. Unless you fell in love with like your high school sweetheart and married them and now you have a bunch of kids and you have this perfect life. Most people have been through ups and downs in love life, and you know, yeah, I've experienced it. And I guess he's asking, you know, do I have any advice for him? It's getting too difficult for him to handle. I guess my question would be, how the hell old are you? Because most of my fans are teenagers. So if you're a teenager, laugh it off. You're going to have a lot of time to deal with love in your life, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. Sure, it hurts the most because it's the first time that it's happened, but you're going to learn over time that it's better in the long run, because obviously if this person who broke your heart, they don't love you, and therefore you wouldn't have wanted to be with them. If you were, it wouldn't have worked out in the long run. Regardless of as much as you know, you liked that person or felt for that person, they obviously didn't have the same feelings for you, so there's no reason for you to be heartbroken about it, because the only reason you should be heartbroken is if you really love someone and they really love you, and for whatever reason you can't be together. Damn, that was pretty insightful. Maybe I am a love guru. Alright, next question. Greetings, Philip. Can you call me Philip? Only my mom calls me Philip. Anyway, greetings, Philip. Who has a bigger dick, Chuck Norris or Duke Nukem? From the bottom of my heart, symbolic. Well, I thought about this, and what I'm thinking is if these two behemoths were ever to collide, that they'd probably get into a giant dick sword fight, and as soon as the heads touched, there'd be such an implosion of fucking creation that everything would immediately cease to exist and be sucked into a black hole. So I don't know who has the bigger dick, but let's not get into a dick measuring contest when it comes to these two. Let's just let them exist as their own entities and pray for the best, because if they ever meet... That was a dumb question. Alright, anyway. Some people have been asking me, will East Coast Customs be returning? And if you don't know what that is, it was a line of joysticks that myself, John Rambo, and Howard worked on last year in 2010 and early 2011. And they were custom edited sticks. I don't want to say custom made because we didn't make the sticks. We bought sticks that were made by Mad Cats, and we basically bought custom parts for them, tweaked them out, put custom artwork on top, and they're really nice looking sticks, okay? And they, by the way, on eBay they sold for pretty high amounts of money. I mean, we're talking, some of them sold for $300 or more, okay? Yes, we would like to do that again. We were very successful doing that, and I think a lot of people loved seeing us build the sticks, looking at the sticks, and the finished products, and then buying the sticks. A lot of people like them. But I said this a couple months ago, so it's worth reiterating. Right now, we're at a time where there's a lot of fighting games that are popular, and they've been coming out. You have Marvel vs. Capcom 3, Mortal Kombat 9, and now Super Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition. And because there's so many fighting games out right now, the value of sticks has been artificially inflated. Meaning, if you were to go try to buy a basic Mad Catz joystick right now, fighter stick, you're probably going to pay anywhere between $100 to $200. That's how overinflated the prices are. Now, last year when we did these custom joysticks, there was a pretty good sale at madcats.com. It was buy one, get one free, so we were able to get 2 or even 3 joysticks for under $200 total. And so because of the low cost of those sticks, we were able to do that line of sticks. What I don't want to do is end up buying a $150 joystick and then having to put it on eBay with a starting price of like $250 because of the cost of parts and all of that. I want to have these sticks to at least go up on eBay starting at reasonable prices. Now, understood that if they could definitely be bid up, and if they get bid up to high prices, that's, you know, that's great. And that's not within our control. But what we want to do is at least make these available for reasonable prices. So until the cost of joysticks drop again, which we kind of expect to happen in the 4th quarter of this year as it starts to die down, It looks like there won't be many major things going on with fighting games later in this year, besides maybe Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. But outside of that, we're hoping maybe at the end of the year there'll be another deal, you know, buy one, get one free or something like that. And then we'll probably jump on that and try to get some more sticks, and there may be another round of East Coast Customs. Well, still got about 5 minutes left. Let's keep going. Oh, this is a good question. This might end this part, and then we'll go to another part. A lot of people have asked me this about my history with anime. Do I like it? What have I watched? Because when we were at Kineticon, I talked a little bit about anime, about Dragon Ball Z, about Naruto, about One Piece, and a lot of people have been watching those videos about when I went to that Kineticon convention and saying, gee Phil, what do you think about anime? Do you really watch it a lot or a little, or, you know, what are your favorites, and etc. So I'll talk a little bit about it. Anime, I got exposed to anime in the 90s, pretty much the same way everyone did. It's when it kind of crossed the ocean and hit the US, and so we started seeing things on TV like Dragon Ball Z, and they became super mainstream at the time. And one thing that I've always said is when I watch anime, you have to watch the original. The US versions of anime are heavily edited, heavily dubbed, and they suck monkey balls. So you want to watch the original content. It's also the same thing with foreign films. For the most part, you want to watch the original film in the original language and watch it watch it subtitled. Sorry. So that way you get the actual emotions, the feeling of what's going on, and everything makes sense. So the perfect example of that is Dragon Ball Z. The US version that originally came out on US TV was awful. It was heavily edited. A lot of the stuff was taken out. Some of it just made no fucking sense because they edited it so heavily. So when I started watching Dragon Ball Z on US TV, I knew there was something wrong there, and I immediately went to the internet and I started watching the series on the internet, and I actually watched the entire Cell Saga, Boo Saga, like all that stuff that happened until the end of the Dragon Ball Z series, I watched online in Japanese before it ever hit US TV. So yeah, I saw the Cell Saga before it even started airing on US TV. And wow, what a fucking difference. It was really good. It had don't get me wrong, everyone, you know, infamously says the Dragon Ball Z series has too much filler. There's a lot of talking, there's a lot of, oh, I will kill you because I have the Dragon Balls of power. Well, no, my power is stronger than your power because my power is the most powerful. Well, my power has been tested, and so my power will crush your power with the power of power. And so they do stupid shit like that on that show. And it's funny, but, you know, I actually enjoyed the series a lot. I really did. I really enjoyed that series. It was super long, interesting, characters that grew and developed over the course of the series, and you really came to care about them, and I really liked that series, okay? Then I watched Dragon Ball GT, and I fucking vomited all over the place, because that's what happens when you get something like Dragon Ball Z that becomes such a huge hit, and then you try to capitalize and commercialize it and turn it into something it's not. That series was god-awful. But over the years, I've seen other anime series, not necessarily on US TV, but I've seen The Ghost in the Shell, Standalone Complex. I've seen most of that series. I saw, I'm trying to think, some Naruto, and I saw Naruto way before it hit US TV. I was watching the Japanese version, and that was because I had friends who were into it, and I kind of got into it after that. One Piece, I got into that also. Pretty much I got into One Piece while I was watching Naruto, because the website that I was watching the Japanese episodes on had both, and so I started watching it and really liked it. And then of course that hit US TV, and that was complete balls too. Yeah, but some things that I haven't talked about yet, Trigun. I watched the entire Trigun series from start to finish, really enjoyed that series. And more recently, Full Metal Alchemist. I watched on Cartoon Network when it was on Adult Swim. I watched Full Metal Alchemist almost the entire series. I think I missed a couple episodes here or there, but I liked it. But near the end of the series, it really seemed to start falling off and not making sense, and got really confusing and not very good. And then I found out it's because the series was only very loosely based on the manga, and that over time it actually skewed from the manga, because the manga hadn't gone as far as the series had. And I said, oh, that makes sense. And now they have a new series, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, that actually very closely follows the original manga. And from what I've heard, it's really good. And guess what? I just bought the whole damn thing. I've got box sets 1 through 4, and box set 5 comes out next week, I believe, and I pre-ordered it. So I'm gonna watch that series from start to finish, and hopefully it'll feel like a more complete story than what the original Full Metal Alchemist series was, because it really didn't feel like a solid story. It sounded like there were problems with it. So, and perfect timing, because my timer just went off. So that's it for part 1. Be sure to come back for part 2, where I have a whole entire other page of questions to answer.